Hi, I'm Dustin. I'm the creator of Rapid Rig, and in this tutorial, I'll be covering how to work with the face settings. So before we've set up our rest pose and all that stuff, now we're onto the face, and specifically, we can tweak the eyelid poses. So if your rig has eyelids and eyes, we can start adjusting those poses. So if I were to grab the two eye socket controls, these big boxes that I can move kind of the whole head around. Uh, Again, there's no weight been painted anywhere on this stuff, so it's just out of the box default eyes paint weights or skin weights. And so here's my blink. Doesn't look so good. It needs some adjustments, so that's what we're going to do here. So I'm going to set some keys here first, and then we'll dive right into it. So I'll set a key here at frame 1, and then I'll go to frame 10, and I'll close my eyes. Set those to 1. And then I'll go to frame 20 and I will put them all the way to -1. So that would be like fully open. All right, and so now we can start tweaking our shapes and our weights. So first thing I'm going to do is fire up NG Skin Tools. So this is a third-party tool, which is just, I can't say enough good things about it. Get it if you don't have it. Basically what it's like is, if you think of Maya's Paint Weights tools, it's like painting with MS Paint, right? You're painting an image, and whatever color you paint, it wrecks whatever was under there. It's a very destructive way of weight painting. With NG, one of its biggest benefits is it has layers like in Photoshop, and it has masks that you can use, so you can stack and adjust and um, change your weights without affecting other weights. So for example, I can go in and paint the weights of just my lip region and not wreck the weights I had on my jaw and face and things like that. So I'm going to show how to use this. I'll also provide a link below to NG Skin Tools website, and I highly recommend picking it up because it's super useful, especially for things like I'm going to show here. So to start, I'm going to select the head, and you can see if I rotate, I get all this stuff going on. And I just want to get clean, just start with the head, and then just start layering my weights on from there. So I'm going to initialize my skin layers with my mesh selected. And in here, I'm going to find my neck top joint here. And I'm going to create a new layer. So I'm going to go layer and create layer here. You can also use the insert, and I'll type in head. So actually, let me move that control out of the way again. Up here, so it's out of the way. A little bit bigger. Okay, there we go. Oops. Let's turn off our symmetry. There we go. Hey, okay, got it. So yeah, what I'm going to do is start painting just the head here. And so on this layer, I'm going to take neck top, and that essentially acts as our, let me turn on the layers. I have my X-ray joints turned on. There we go. Now we can see that. Go back to paint. And yeah, what I'm going to do is flood my neck top all the way 100%. Okay, so now this will move the whole character. But what you'll see is if I go in here and I turn off the head layer, it's no longer effective. And so I'm going to put that back at 0. Resetting my control. And instead of trying to paint just a head in the region, I'm going to use the mask. So if you're familiar with Photoshop masks, it works basically the same, where I can go in and start painting in the mask. Now what I can also do is I'll just isolate select, grab my vertices, symmetry, grab all these, grab all that. Good enough. I can go in and tweak later. But yeah, now I can go back to paint, and I will flood my mask. So it's only affecting those vertices. And I'll go back here and just rotate the head just to see, yeah, that's kind of what we expect. Again, I can go in and tune the mask later, but we're just starting with a kind of a clean slate for the face by starting with the head and building up and refining our weights from there. So now we could see if I'll just hide my controls for a second and maybe hide my joints. I'll just actually basically just my mesh. And now you can see that I don't have anything left on the eyelids moving. even though if I bring back my controls, I can see that back, where did they go? Come back controls. There we go. So I can see that the controls are still moving, but the eyelids are not. So what we're going to do now is add another layer, and I'm going to call this eyelids. Okay. And now I'm going to find just my eyelids. So I'm going to say left. I only want to deal with the left, and I'll do star and eyelid. So this will find just my eyelid joints. And now I can start painting. And I'm going to start with my inner eyelid here for the left. I'm just going to start, actually, I'm going to flood it like I did before with the head. And then I'll grab my outer. And the other thing I'm going to do is make sure that I have distribute to other influences turned on here. So if I remove weight, it'll add it to a different bone. Okay, so it's going to roughly do that. And then as I smooth it, that's going to remove weight from this joint. But because I have this distribute to other influences turned on, it's going to move that weight to my other joint. Now, nothing's going to happen yet because those corner joints don't really affect the blink. But now what I can do is start adding weight to my other joints. So I'm going to go into my top here and turn on, so you can see my joints there. I have my controls. There we go. Now I can see that a little bit better. So this is eyelid 1. I'm going to go in and add some weight there. Go to eyelid 2. Some weight there. Eyelid 3. Add weight there. And now I can go in and holding the shift key, kind of smooth out the blending. And yeah, right now I'm using replace, and I'm going to switch to add so I can kind of like build up my painting here a little bit. We got a little bit higher value. And then again, my shift key will allow me to smooth. And it's a good idea to, let's go back to add here, a bigger value. I'm going to paint way higher on all these joints just to extend the weight out. And I'll use my mask to kind of pull that influence back. So go something like that. Go and smooth it. I can look at my inner and I'll use control. So scale this down to 0. Oops. Smaller, go kill that and kill anything of my outer that's over here. Go back to adding. Again, I'm just pushing the weight out further than it would ever go, but then I'll use my mask to refine it. So if we look here, here's our eyelid closing, and you can see that it's coming, it's affecting all this stuff way too much. But what I can now do is go into my mask and then only mask the region I want. So one thing I can do is isolate select. Let's grab the vertices here. I'm going to grow that selection to say there maybe. Maybe a bit too far. Sure, let's get that loop for now. That loop. And so now I'll go back to paint and I'll just flood this mask. So I'll go to frame 10. And now when I flood this place, flood the full thing, now you can see that those top vertices are no longer moving. And now what I could do is go in and just start painting and smoothing that mask out. Okay. Let's make this a bit bigger and just kind of kill a little bit more of the influence around. I can use my shift key to kind of smooth it out. It's a bit of back and forth just to kind of pull that weight back. Okay, so now if I look at it closing, it's much more natural. And I could see that I got a little too close there, so I'm just going to go back in and replace with the full value and just bring back these vertices here that I kind of overshot a little bit. Everything's good on the bottom. Yeah. Let's take a look here. So now we have this closing, and you can see that it's it's a bit warped, and it's overshooting the bottom lid a bit. So depending on how you want your eyelid to close, I may not want to move the top lid all the way down, or I may want to bring the bottom one up a little bit. So now we can go in and start tuning. So I'm going to bring back the controls here. And so what you'll notice is wherever you put your eyelid controls, they end up stacked right on top of each other. And so what I'm going to do is tune these a little bit. Actually, sorry, I guess I should paint the lower eyelid too. Let's go back to our painting and let's start adding weight to our lower eyelid joints. I'm going to hide my controls there. Perfect. And I'll go in and start adding inputs for these. Isolate select so I can make sure that I'm getting the loops there. Actually, what I'll probably do for now is just hide the eye. There we go. Okay, so we have some influence there. I'm just going to make sure that my top and or my inner and outer are not affecting in here at all. Okay, so let's see how that looks. Let's bring back our controls. Right, so we're overshooting quite a bit. So I don't want my eyelid to come down quite so far, my top lid, and I don't want my top lid to, or my bottom lid to come up quite that far either. So what I can do is start positioning these for how I want them to be. I'm just going to raise this up a little bit. This one. And I'm going to that frame 10 where I set my keys so that it's that exact value, or just making sure that I'm on 1 1 there. And I'll do the same thing for this control here. And this is kind of like an art decision on how you want it to look. But you can also angle these. And then for my bottom lid, maybe I don't want it to come up quite that high, but I'm going to have to do a bit of angling, potentially pull that down. get that one a little bit. And once I've kind of defined how I want my closed shape to look by posing those, I can select my socket control, and back here I'm going to say record top and bottom eyelid poses. And now when I go to frame 10, like back here it's back to the default, but now when I go to 10, it's neutralized those and said, okay, that's the value that these should be. So this is how you kind of tune it. So let's see how that looks. That's not bad. The top lid's coming down, the bottom lid's coming down, or going up a little bit. I'll bring this one up just a tiny bit more. Okay, and I'll just record that again. So grab my socket control, and there we go. So my outer two are coming up more than this one, so I'm going to have this one come up a little bit more, just so it feels a little bit more natural. Okay, and then I'll once again record that. So now what I'll have to do is start going in and refining the weights a bit more, because things are a little bit, uh, having a gap here and not quite smooth. So I'll go back to my frame 10, and then I'll go back to NG, and I'll start looking at some of these joints. So this is my first eye joint. So what I'm going to do is have this one have a bit more influence. It didn't have any influence down there, but it should have maybe a little bit more here. Not that much. Let's do add. Put that down. Now that looks, there we go. That's closing a lot better. Get a little bit more here. Hide my joints for now, and my controls maybe. It's getting T. There we go. Do that a little bit. And this one over here. A little too far. That just a little bit. And I'll go in and start tuning that joint. Try to get this top or this corner one to do the same. General shape on both. Okay. But that's the basic idea for that. I mean, I could spend a lot more time further refining it, but I don't want to spend forever on this. One last little touch up on the bottom here. Okay, so that's looking not bad. So let me just record that, save that. And now we want to work on the eye open. So I'll go to frame 20 and I'll bring back my eye geo here. I can sort of see what I'm going for here. So on frame 20, I'm going to do the same things. I'm going to take these controls, which are currently zeroed out. And again, frame 20 is where I have my eye top lid all the way at -1, which will be to open it. So open is -1, closed is 1. And so I'm going to grab this, rotate it up, grab this one, rotate it up. Maybe I'll angle this one a bit. And you always want to push things, more than you think they need to go, because animators will want to hit those extreme poses. I'm going to push this pretty far beyond what should be possible. But again, it's like a stylized cartoony character, so why not? Showing quite a bit of the eye there now. And I'll grab this and I'll just record a top eyelid. And then I'll do the same thing for the bottom eyelid. So let's go ahead and push this down further. A bit of a twist there. Grab this one. Okay, so something like that, and now I'll just select this and record. Let's hit both. There we go. So that's on frame 20. So we have closed and open. So I want to refine my weights a little bit more on the top lid because I'm seeing I'm getting quite a bit of clipping and stuff here. So let's go in here and I'll go back to painting here, and I'll go back to my mask here. And so when I see it closing here, I'm just gonna go in and start smoothing some of that out. Maybe pulling some of that down a bit. And then when the eye goes open, I want to add more influence here. So I'm just going to add a bit more around here. Let's see how that looks. Like maybe normally they don't ever go about that far, but you have the occasional frame where they'll go quite a bit further. Let's go in and paint just a little bit more influence on these couple points there. And I can see that it's affecting too far down on the bottom lid here. So again, I can go back to my mask. Without having to go into each individual joint, I can just start reducing the amount of influence here. See how that looks. Pretty fleshy. Again, maybe a little too much still. Good enough. Anyway, yeah, I could spend more time on this, but I won't. So now that we've got one eye set up, we want to do the same sort of thing to the other side. So let's do that real quick here. So what I'm going to do is go to my pose that I want to mirror across. So I'll go to this pose here, and then I'll select this socket here, and I'll say mirror recorded eyelid pose. So I'll select this, and I'll say mirror, and you can see that those ones updated. And then let's undo that because I'm on the wrong frame. Go. And then I'll do the same thing on 20 where it's maxed out, and I'll say mirror there. And we can see that, okay, the controls are moving, but the IGO isn't. So we're going to go into NG, and I'm going to quickly show how to set up the mirroring. So I'm going to go into mirror, and I'm going to change my, so I'm going to go from positive to negative, which is good. And in here, I'm going to preview and edit mapping. So currently it's using these defaults. Now in my case, my joints are named based off of, let's just double check what we got for naming here. So we have right and we have left. So what I'm going to do in here is put in right and left. And what that should do, I'm going to do, sorry, a star on each side as well. Okay, and then I'll hit apply. Oh, I'm going to turn off the label. There we go. Now it should find all the associations we want based on this left, right. And I can get rid of these other ones just to be safe. So I'm only doing those. Should be fine. And so I'll apply. And so now I'll go into my mirror. And I want to also mirror my layer mask because of how that's painted. And so I'll just do mirror. Hopefully it all went well. Quite go well. Let's take a look here. Mask, paint. That looks right. We got all eyelids. Okay, that mirrored. Oh, there we go. Okay, I'm not sure what happened there, but we have mirroring. So now we have both eyelids ready to go. And I'll just hide my, I'll actually keep my controls on. I'll hide my joints. So even though, these are driving these shapes with the open and closed, do one or the other, and then you can still go in and further tune these. But basically what we've done is create new 0 values for the open and closed on the eyelids. All right, so that was a bit of a longer tutorial. Thanks for sticking around for the whole thing. Hopefully you found it informative and helpful for painting weights for your eyelids and setting up your eyelid poses.